So this was today's two questions what we had posted. The first question was on the ideology, that is socialism in 21st century may be reborn as anti-capitalism, comment. So how will you structure your answer? Same thing, introduction, body and conclusion. So how will you start your answer here? So you can say in 1989 Francis Fukuyama in his essay The End of History claimed that the liberal democracy has won the battle of ideologies, and today the movement of history has come to an end with the death of communism. So that was his claim. That you can write as your introduction. Then what will you write?
Why capitalism is facing challenges today?
So you can, no, connecting you say, however, when we look at the last 2 decades, we can see that capitalism has by no means been a perfect ideology. So now you have to tell about what are the issues which we have faced in last 2 decades with the neoliberal ideology or the liberal democratic world. So one, you can say that inequality has risen. So you can quote the Oxfam report here by saying that how the 1% of the super rich, they control 99% of the world's resources. Second, what you can say? What is the second problem you can say with the new world?
Rolling back of state has also
The rolling back of state and austerity measures have led to what? Have led to the human lives being affected, where they have lost social security, and you can say the market has failed. To respond to the people's needs, for example, COVID-19, where the state had to make a comeback to what you can say, subsidize the vaccine cost, healthcare, etc. Then you can say the other problem is that because of this economic crisis, like what Francis Fukuyama himself in his new book, Liberalism and its Discontent, has said that what? It has led to rise of neo-fascist groups. So I can give examples here, like the alternative for Germany or this Mary Le Pen's party in that regard. Brothers of Italy. They have tapped on to the growing discontent in the liberal world and directed towards racism or protectionism, which is leading to the weakening of the liberal institutions, global liberal institutions. then you can say that now that is why Thomas Piketty in his book The Capital in 21st century says that socialism, he is rearising again, and you can say today there is a need to bring what? Need to bring welfare measures. Welfare measures. The state will have to provide basic necessities of individuals. And now you can add the recent victory of the Labour Party in England stands a testimony to it. The recent victory of Labour Party in England stands a testimony to it. But now what you are going to say, even though socialism can be reborn, what Francis Fukuyama in his book that Liberalism and Discontent says that he continues to believe that liberalism is the end, but however he says that liberalism should modify itself in a way where he says three things now. What is that? One, that state is required to provide social goods to people. Second one, market regulation. And third one is what? The limited welfareism, or you can say they can follow the Nordic model. But then you can say, however, socialism cannot be seen to rearise in the terms of what Marx had envisaged, but you can say socialism can re-emerge as a critic of capitalism. It can make capitalism more humanistic in nature. That can be the scope of the re-arise of socialism. So this should be the content in your answer, or how you can structure your answer through example. So here they are given a viewpoint that telling that socialism is not dead. Socialism can make a recomeback in 21st century. So obviously you have to write what are the problems in 21st century and to what extent socialism can solve the problems of 21st century. But again you have to be that Marxian socialism cannot see a revival in that regard. We see more of what? Revival of democratic socialism, or you can say socialistic aspects can be adopted by certain political parties. So that is where you can say that is Francis Fukuyama who says that socialism or certain limited welfare measures can be brought by the state at large. So this was the first question which was in today's question which was asked. The second question was more of a straightforward question. I think that was Gandhi's view on state or something like that. The second question was Gandhi's view of state. Comment. Gandhi's view on state. Comment. So it asks for 15 marks. So here, as I said in introduction, what will you write? Gandhi's view of state very comes close to view of state similar to Marx, that is very close to a functional anarchy. And then you are going to say Gandhi has two visions of state. One, what is his view of the state? His view of the state is based on the idea of the Gram Swaraj Ramarajya. So where he says that every individual should have self-control. Once every individual has a self-control, there is no need for a state to bring. And he believes in the idea of democratic decentralization, and is in favor of promoting village republics where every village can function as a self-sustaining unit. And Gandhi is highly critical of the modern state Why is he critical of the modern state? Because he says it is a soulless machine, and in modern times state has acquired, it is a humongous state with a huge state machinery, where he says bureaucracy is inevitable part of the modern state, and this lead to what? This lead to bureaucratization of democracy rather than democratic control of bureaucracy. Third problem, he says that the modern state is incompatible with the idea of individual rights. Why it is incompatible with the individual rights? Because modern state is based on centralization of power. And he also says that the modern state cannot exist without exercise of violence. So here you can say, so Gandhi's view reflects that what he comes very close to anarchy. But however, some critics, like the point what he had said, say that even though Gandhi comes very close to anarchy, the contradiction is that to implement many of the Gandhian ideas, the role of the state is needed. And you can say, as Gandhi also matured with his writings, in his later writings, he does admit that a liberal democratic state would be required for the well-being of individuals. So in his younger days he was a bit more radical, but later works you can say that he does accept that you need a state to play a role.
Sir, this idea can be connected with minimum government, maximum governance.
You can, but minimum government, maximum governance is a different philosophy. That is mainly based on the liberal or neoliberal idea. The thing is true, that's why when you take the idea of proportionate equality of Aristotle, that is treating equals equally, unequals unequally. When you take the modern idea of treating equals equally, both are same, but they all completely belong to a different philosophy altogether. So when you say minimum government, maximum governance, what the government's claim was in 2014, that was not based on Gandhian idea, that is mainly based on this market-based economy. So Hayek and Nozick, they told the government which is minimum is the best. Okay, why minimum government? They believe that if government performs larger functions like social justice, welfare functions, for that you need bureaucracy to implement it. And what is Hayek's view on bureaucrats is that he calls them as robbers and he calls them as thieves in that regard, and he says that they are incompatible with individual freedom. So he says that bureaucracy should be as minimal as possible, they should not play a key role, and that is why they call for state should withdraw itself from various areas. And they were highly critical of this the social liberal model of state which was there. They called it as nanny state, because they told the state is feeding a man from birth till death, and that they critiqued, saying that it is going to broaden the fiscal deficit and it becomes unmanageable for the state, and that is why they told that state should become very minimal in that regard. And it is you can also say within liberalism, right, the shades of minimality also varies on how radical it is. So if you go for extreme radical liberalism in that regard, they believe that the state need not even perform policing functions, that can be also outsourced. The state should be just a night watchman, just keep an eye on what everybody is doing function. So in that regard you can say the idea of minimum government, maximum governance, not with respect to a Gandhian perspective currently they spoke about. But yeah, Gandhi also spoke about minimum government is best in that regard. So this you can write as part of your answer. So that's why I said again, unless you write, okay, plain and simple, because you are all writing means this is also for those who are going to prepare for next year. See, unless you write, no matter how much you sit and read, you are not going to make any difference in the exam. Why I told again, it is only few people who are skilled enough to write very good content, but majority what they will do, they will just sit and read. The problem is that when you write one mains, you will understand the importance of writing. Okay, I think those people who have written mains, you will know the importance of writing in mains. But for a newcomer, how it will be always that, I'm going to read so much of knowledge, I'm going to bring it on paper. This exam is not about who is the most knowledgeable person. The most knowledgeable person usually don't clear the exam. These exams are all cleared by those people who are more practical, those who know the examination well, and those who have an idea that, what is required in this exam. So that's why I told each stage of the exam has a skill. Okay, in prelims, for a person who is clearing prelims continuously, you know that thing, what is that is required. You know there is a pattern that go through PYQs, know the themes in that regard, sentences where you can explain. A person who does not know prelims, what he will try to do, he will try to read everything and go and say that I'm going to clear. It won't work unless you are very smart with reading the statement. Mains, what is required at all, it is all about writing, it is all about bringing a good answer in the paper in the given time. Yeah, you might not have the best knowledge, but you have a skill of presenting something which in a unique way, you will get marks. Interview is about more, it's about your speaking skills. So end of the day, you have to speak well, and it's also about your personality. So obviously, it is not foolproof, because in half an hour in front of the board is going to judge you based on what they see in that half an hour. Okay, you might be a very honest person, you might be a very good person, but that half an hour you didn't speak, you went nervous, you had a nervous background. Obviously, they are not going to look into your soul and see that okay, this fellow is a acha banda hai, marks de denge. They won't give. So that's why if you are going to lie, be a very good liar. You have to know how to lie well in front of the board. There are people who have scored well like that, but I am not encouraging that. It is always better to stick, but yeah, you have exceptional skills in that regard, you can do it. So there was one of my friend in forest service, he got 205. Okay, so basically they had asked him a question, have you gone to forest and all. He told, I have never gone to forest, I didn't have the money to go to forest, etc. Some card he played. So obviously they cross questioned him, and they felt that he was telling the truth, etc. But he is an exceptional artist in that regard, that he can make somebody believe that what he is. So the point I am telling, this exam is not so foolproof, saying that the most knowledgeable person will always clear, the less knowledgeable person will not clear. Even you will feel sometimes like this, how this fellow cleared. You will have that, there's a how this fellow cleared. The point is that not knowledge. The point is that fellow will be good in certain things, that what is required for the exam. Some people don't understand. That is what you need an Aurobindo Ghosh super mind to understand this exam. If you are very too naive, if you are too the emerging level. In Bangalore we tell this, in Bangalore students, however, they are like one size fits all approach. They have just one way to look at, like the horse which are tried, hit them, they will keep running straight away. So in their mind is that okay, there is this magic material, if I leave, I will clear the exam. That is their stage in Bangalore, many kids, which I feel they are. So obviously they are not even conscious of okay, what this examination is about. They are more worried about, shall I read Drishti, shall I read Vision, shall I read Sri Ram. Read some material, everything will be the same. Simple, now inflation can't be given different in Sri Ram or in Vision. It's FOMO. FOMO is what? Fear of missing out. And if you see some toppers in that regard, I think some of you think you have cleared prelims successively. I think some of you have not even read current affairs in detail before you. Why? Because it is not required. Why it is not required? It is more application of mind. If you know broadly, you will be able to do well. But if you go tell the students, they won't understand that. They always feel that there is some, this material in that regard that will get me that rank. It's more about knowing the examination well, and you have to match your skill to that exam. Some of you, why you might not be scoring well in mains is that you might not be meeting the requirement of the exam. Or some people will not do well in interview. Why? Because their understanding of interview is wrong. Like when I went to interview, that's my basic understanding was very limited. Be honest. So they asked me 5 questions I told I don't know. So my perception was that okay, I am being honest, they will reward me. You also have to understand from an interview's point of view. If every question you tell I don't know, how he is going to make an assessment of you? You have to know something about everything I don't know. So you might think that I have given a very honest, straightforward answer. That is what Kautilya said, always the straight trees are cut first. So you have to be also practical in the exam, that how it works. I am not telling bluff many things which are, but at least make the board interesting, saying that okay, you have something to say, something you know about the topic, you try to connect with them on the topic, obviously they will give you marks. So that's why I told, for every stage of the exam you have to work in that. Because when interview I didn't take any help, randomly I went and board. So at that point of time, Vinay sir had told, come for interview, I didn't go. I felt there's no use, what I will go in every board, they'll tell the same thing. But that is what I felt later, that I should have done mocks, I should have given mocks, I should have known that what kind of questions can come in the exam. When you go to different boards, it's not about what is the comment they give. Maybe they'll ask certain questions which you have never thought about. You are getting point? A person can ask you a question which you have never thought about, they can ask. So you will get exposure. Comments are not important for me because everybody will have their own opinion about my personality. I can't satisfy everybody. But I'll at least get to know what are the different areas of question they can ask because I can be prepared for it. You have to prepare for it. Interview requires preparation. Okay, you have to work on small things. So there are last time a student who got very high marks in interview, 200. He was also political science. They had asked him a lot of questions, digging in that regard, saying that, okay, what is your view on this foreign policy? Okay, so when he used to give the view, they just never used to accept the view, they tell justify, give explanation why. So when he asked about India and Russia, they asked, what India is doing, is it correct? Do you think that we are trying to be a global power today? We are escaping from our thing. But he justified it well, saying that, sir, we have to go for our national interest in that regard. That is why it is very important for us bringing a balancing act. Why Russia is important? He explained that. Okay. So there also it's not about you are telling somebody's viewpoint, like Raja Mohan's viewpoint. What is your viewpoint? What do you think? Okay, why do you think that is the best? Or why do you defend what India has done in that regard? So if you have that kind of clarity in an interview also, if you are able to present it in front of the board will give, but element of luck will be always there in interview. It's not 100% that you will get that much marks. So that is what we say for mains, for those who are writing next year, you have to write answers. Only reading will not take you. You have to read also, but along with reading, practice answer writing. And time limit is one more thing, you have to be conscious of the fact. For those who are writing means they have 100% they have to work within time limit, but those who are writing next year, gradually first build content, learn of deciphering the question, then try to work in the third area. Within that given time, are you able to stitch up a very good answer? The simple example is that, now let us think we discussed so much about it, Francis Fukuyama, Joseph Stiglitz, etc. But when I have asked you to write the answer in 7 minutes, it won't come to your mind all that. It will be in your book, but on the spot it won't come. That's why I told that requires multiple rounds of revisions in that regard. Got it? So tomorrow again we'll meet up with 2 questions.